Hello everyone and welcome back, Dace here. So I'm wondering about something. Have you ever given up on a shmup because you thought it was too hard or taking too long? Maybe you want to improve your skills greatly but aren't sure how to do it? Or perhaps your skills have come a long way recently, but some games still seem far beyond your level and ultimately not something you feel you have any business tackling. When it comes to resources on how to get better at shmups, I feel the same in-game methods are always brought to the forefront. Memorization, pattern recognition, resource management, etc. That, or you'll receive the old get good response when digging for information. Meanwhile, the mentality to match the skill level is often left out of the picture entirely. In my experience, our mindset paves over 90% of the way to our success and deserves serious attention. If our mindset is not an integral part of the equation, we'll barely be tapping into our potential and only make it so far. Sure, you'll always gradually improve the more you play, that's guaranteed, and knowing some tips can certainly make a big difference. But if you want to start taking on much greater challenges within STGs and push yourself to the limit to improve your skills beyond what you think you're capable of, that's when there's a lot more involved, and it's pretty much all mental at that point. If this has piqued your curiosity, then stick around because today's video kickstarts a new series where we'll be exploring facets of the multifaceted STG experience, specifically on growth, mindset, and overcoming obstacles. In today's episode, we'll touch on practice, patience, perseverance, and the mindset that I feel is essential to conquering things with exceedingly steep difficulty, especially when we know we aren't yet playing at the required skill level. Bear in mind, I'll only be skimming the edge of the galaxy since exploring this topic in depth could be 10 hours on its own. I am by no means claiming to be an expert on any of this. I am simply sharing what I have found to be instrumental in my progression since I started playing STGs in 2018. With that out of the way, let's get into this. When I commit to a very challenging goal in any given STG, I always remind myself that conquering that goal will take considerable time and energy. I must exercise immense patience and perseverance the entire time, and my practice must be relentless. Anything other than gladly accepting those two conditions means it'll be an uphill battle from start to finish. Needless to say, a great deal of sacrifice will need to be made. We live in an age where most people seek instant gratification, and it's easy to see why when almost everything is literally at our fingertips. However, when it comes to STGs, thinking something needs to happen overnight or in a matter of days is almost always unrealistic and adds unnecessary pressure to the experience and learning curve. That's not to say pressure is a negative thing. On the contrary, you'll want a solid dose of pressure to stay consistent and push through rough patches instead of simply giving up when you don't see results as early as you'd like. But being able to distinguish between positive and negative pressure is essential to ensure we're maintaining a healthy approach to our grind. Depending on your goal, you may have hundreds of runs and a million fumbles ahead of you. You might be stuck on the same boss or part of a stage for weeks on end until you finally see a breakthrough. The greater the challenge, the higher the likelihood of it taking more time and energy. The thought of a journey filled with countless errors, delays, and frustration may sound intimidating to some, but it's the mistakes and repetition that will make you a stronger and more calculating player. View your game as a teacher and yourself as the student. See each run as a learning experience and not a situation where you have to play well and reach your goal at the earliest possible moment. Creating such expectations is unnecessary and often sets us up for disappointment. Experience enough of these self-inflicted moments of disappointment and there's a good chance you'll burn out and give up on yourself prematurely. No one wants to get burnt out on a game before they reach their goal, but burning out is a certainty if we don't take the necessary steps to ensure we're adequately equipped for the entire journey. And remember, being burnt out on an STG is always the player's fault, never the game's, so it only makes sense to be responsible for ourselves every step of the way. So how do we know if our approach to the grind is going in a healthy or unhealthy direction? That's easy. If there's one simple truth, it's that if you put your mind to it, you can achieve it. Therefore, anything that serves to dissuade you from that belief is a lie and should be discarded the moment it appears. If you think your goal has a deadline, it doesn't. If you think you have to force yourself to keep playing when your current session gets worse and worse, you don't. Feeling frustrated is normal. It shows us that we aren't satisfied with a situation or that our mind and body are simply feeling the effects of a struggle or challenge as we grow. However, when that frustration leads to thinking you can't do it, it's not worth it, or any other excuse you tell yourself, you're harboring an unhealthy mindset and approach. In this situation, you're more likely to pile on unneeded pressure and force yourself to practice when you need rest. You may even feel more irritable because you're focusing on all of your errors. At the end of the day, the experience will be much less enjoyable and your resolve will eventually crumble. Does this sound like the mindset you are currently experiencing? If so, take a step back and remember that it's entirely natural for self-sabotaging thoughts to seep into our minds from time to time, but we don't need to surrender to them. Surrendering is the easy way out, and the end result is always failure. We don't want failure here, we want success in what we work towards. We're here to cultivate a healthy mindset and approach that will stop at nothing to achieve its goals. We want a razor-sharp focus and unwavering resolve. Okay, so how do we do that? Like any other skill, shifting our mindset will not be an overnight process. It is quite literally a forging process, and it will take time and practice to hammer it into the shape we want. To start, adopt a positive outlook on the situation instead of getting down about a temporary lack of progress or other difficulties you face. There's no sense in forcing our practice when it's obvious we need to set it down for the night. There is a time to push forward and a time to rest, so when you feel agitated, your stress level rises, or utter defeat just around the corner, step away for a bit. Giving ourselves a short break is always the best way to refresh our minds. Return to it the next day and keep chipping away, but ensure that you always return to it. More often than not, you'll see a complete turnaround after granting yourself a reprieve. Be aware of how far you've already made it. Look at the obstacles you've overcome and how much better you are now than when you first started playing. Keep these things at the forefront and always push onward. The more you consciously put this into practice, the better off you'll be for the long haul. I'll share a personal example from when I was grinding out my 1cc in Visara 2. The first night I played V2, I invested 2 or 3 hours fighting the Stage 3 boss over and over before finally bringing him down for the first time. The fight was more or less sloppy survival and resembled the furthest thing from the clean and tight method I would eventually formulate. But at least it was a turning point since I hadn't made it beyond that fight all evening. I'll be honest though, part of my mind questioned whether it was genuinely something I wanted to commit to wholeheartedly. It would have been so easy to give up that first night when I witnessed how relentlessly brutal Visara 2 was. I could have rationalized it by telling myself that I know I can do it if I invest the time and energy, so why bother actually doing it? I could have said to myself that it was far beyond my skill level and that there was no way I'd be able to pull it off. In fact, it was far beyond my skill level at the time, and that's ultimately why I chose to proceed. I saw it as an opportunity to grow stronger as a player and knew that my skills weren't going to reach new levels without pushing through some excruciating challenges along the way. Visara 2 ended up taking me 1.5 months to clear. I practiced anywhere from 3 to 5 hours daily and only missed a total of 4 days during that whole time. It's the most demanding and resource-dry STG I've ever seriously tackled, and in my honest opinion, I'd do it all over again. The growth I experienced during Visara 2 is invaluable, and pushing myself to the absolute limit revealed a lot. I discovered more about how I operate, what I can use to my advantage, and where I can still improve. I learned to practice more efficiently while maintaining the endurance needed for such an arduous grind. I witnessed how far my determination can take me and that no matter how intimidating things initially felt, I did it. I'm trusting this serves as a source of encouragement for some. If you have struggled to remain motivated and see your goals realized, it's okay. We're all guilty of defeating ourselves and giving up in the past, but if any of what I've expressed today resonates with you on some level, give yourself a solid chance and push through those brutally hard challenges you're facing. Am I saying you need to practice 8 hours a day? Absolutely not. Some players only play a single run per day when tackling a game. The rest of their time is invested in practicing the parts that trip them up. I personally like to play my STGs though, so if I practice for, let's say, an hour or two, there's no way I'm only playing one 20-minute run that day. Of course, everyone will have a different way to balance this, but for me, I don't want to feel like the journey is 97% practice and 3% play. Ultimately, you've got to do what will keep your progress moving and what will be the most fun for you. In any event, stick with it until you achieve success. When you come out on the other side, you will have grown in ways you might never have fathomed, and you will most certainly thank yourself for it. Anyway, that's where I'm leaving off for now. Remember that this only skims the surface and my approach isn't the only way. If you found something useful to take away from this video and ponder, that's stellar. If it's inspired you or you have something you would like to share, feel free to drop it in the comments below. Let me know what you've been able to overcome recently or what has worked for you in the past. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to fling a like my way and consider subscribing. The support is always greatly appreciated, and I love the community we're building here. Thanks for checking this out, and we'll see you all next time.